What's going on, everybody? My name is Cameron, portrait and future wedding photographer based out of Durham, North Carolina. And today I'm going to take you through a video about what's in my camera bag in 2024 and some of the essentials that you need in your camera bag if you're brand new to photography, kind of like me. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. So first things first, when we talk about what's in my camera bag, we're going to talk about the camera, obviously, which you can't see right now because I'm recording on it, and that's going to be the Canon EOS R7. The Canon EOS R7 is a crop sensor camera, or APS-C sensor, which is smaller than a full frame sensor, and that's going to cause a lot less light to get in than versus a full frame. But don't get me twisted, it's still a very great camera. 32 megapixels, takes high quality photos, and there are benefits to a crop sensor over a full frame, but we'll get into that later or in another video. If you want to hear some more about that, you can leave that in the comments. On the camera right now, the lens I'm using is a 16mm f2.8, and that's going to be running about $300, and that's going to be probably the best budget wide angle lens you can for the Canon RF mounts. Canon is kind of weird in the RF system. They don't allow a lot of third-party lenses like they did in the ES system or like on a lot of Sony cameras. So a lot of the Tamron and Sigma lenses don't work on the new RF systems, but they do work on EF, and then they do work on like the Sonys, and I think like maybe not Fuji's, I don't know. Just if you get a Canon RF, just expect to get Canon RF lenses and kind of call it a day, unless you have a adapter, but that's a backwards adapter, so that probably won't work. Yeah, so you're just probably going to use RF lenses and kind of go with that. So that's my setup for my talking head videos like this, or if I want to vlog, the 16mm f2.8 is going to be great for that. So the next lens we're going to talk about is something that is very common when you talk about photography, and then they always say this should be your first lens once you get a camera because of the versatility of it and the fast aperture, and it's great for portraits and pretty much anything else. And that's going to be the RF 50mm 1.8, or as some people like to call it, the Nifty 50. Now the Nifty 50 has a 43mm filter size, so if you want to get an ND filter or a black men's filter, 43mm is going to work for you. And it's going to be an aperture of 1.8, so you're going to get that nice creamy background with the bokeh, and those bokeh balls are just going to be super, super crisp. And this is only going to run you about $200. So at this price for a 50mm, it's a great budget lens, and it's a great budget option to get you kind of jump started into photography, and it's not going to break the bank. So I know a lot of people who will buy this 50mm and call it a day. They'll just own this, and then this will be all they shoot on, which, I mean, if you're versatile enough, or depending on what you're shooting, then it'll work for you. Now on a Canon R7, like I have an APS-C camera or a crop sensor camera, you're going to have to add in the 1.6 times magnification factor, or 1.6 crop factor, they call it. So basically every single focal length, you're going to have to times by 1.6, and that's going to be the similar focal length as to if it was on a full frame camera. So I'm shooting on a 16 right now. 1.6 times 16 is going to be 24. 1.6 times 50 is going to be 70. No, I lied. 80 is going to be 80. So you kind of have to take that into account. If you're going to go with the APS-C camera, or if you're going with a full frame, then obviously the length that you get on the lens is the length you're shooting on. Now, total disclaimer before I keep going farther into the video. All this stuff I'm about to show you it's a lot, kind of, but not all of it's paid off. So I'm still paying off some of it. So don't think that I'm making this video and saying I'm a beginner photographer and you're like, well, you have all this stuff, you already spent $1,000. Like, I'm getting there, I'm on the way, but I haven't paid all this stuff off yet. So that's full transparency for anybody thinking that they just don't have the funds. I don't either. So we're getting there. We're getting there. Okay. So the next lens I'm going to talk about is probably the most versatile lens outside of the 50mm, and especially if you're on a crop. Even if you're on a full frame, this is going to work out well for you. And this is going to be the RF 35mm f1.8 as well. Now, the 35mm is what most people say is a lens that is their go-to for street photography, and even for some portraits. And a lot of people that get a 35mm, this lens does not leave their camera bag. Now, it does have image stabilization. The 50mm does not have image stabilization inside the lens, So the 35 millimeter does have image stabilization inside the lens, which is going to be really helpful when you have to shoot at slow shutter speeds or if you're doing video. Now, if you watch the video I did with my friends downtown Raleigh, I was recording on this 35 millimeter, but the stabilization, it was working, just I wasn't stable at all. So I'll link that up here if you want to go ahead and watch that. It's a little challenge we did. We just had some fun with it. But 35 millimeter f1.8, great lens. It has a 52 millimeter thread size. So if you want to buy a filter, you're going to need a 52 millimeter with that. I do recommend lens hoods for all my lenses, or for all your lenses that you buy, just because it's a little bit extra protection. If you drop it, it will have more of a chance of cracking the hood versus cracking your lens, which if you crack the lens, it's a very hefty repair, versus if you crack the hood, it's about a $10 repair. So the 35 millimeter 1.6, if you're on a crop sensor camera, is going to be equivalent to a 56 millimeter lens. So it's going to get you the closest to that Nifty 50 look than if you were on a full frame and going with the Nifty 50. The next lens I just picked up a couple days ago, and that is the 85 f2 lens macro. So actually this 35 here is a macro lens as well. So if you're a wedding photographer and you're taking like detail shots, or if you're a product photographer, these two lenses are going to be great for you for products and for portraits. Because of the fast aperture, you're going to be able to get that blurry bokeh background. It's going to look really good. The 85 is going to be that medium telephoto lens, so it's going to add a lot of compression. It's going to make the dark, or make the background seem closer to your subject, but it's also going to give you that good separation as well at f2. So I have not had a chance to shoot this lens yet, honestly. It's just been sitting on my desk because I work a full-time job outside of YouTube, and so it's just been hard for me to like get home and get out and shoot. That's probably an excuse on my part, but anywho, we're getting there. So the only downside I have of this 85 millimeter f2 is that when you're in video mode and you're trying to autofocus on something macro, it is really slow. But if you're in photo mode, it's fine. But if you are trying to video something, trying to get up close, it's going to take you a while. I don't know why, but that's just my personal experience with that. But if you're just taking this for photos, product photos, wedding photos, whatever, this is going to be a great lens for you. A 67 millimeter thread size. And so that's going to be perfect for your filters. Now, I do recommend, if you're going to get filters for your lenses, if you're like me and you have 4 different lenses, get one lens or get one filter and then just get step-up rings, which I'll actually talk about next. Step-up rings are going to be essential for your camera bag and to have at all times if you are wanting to use ND filters, if you're a videographer, or if you want to use CPL filters, or if you want to use black mist filters. You don't have to buy a filter for every single thread size on your camera. You just buy a step-up ring. So this one in particular, this is a 43 to 55 millimeter. Let's see if that focus is on there. Let me cover my eyes. Maybe. Okay, it's not focusing. Anyway, this is a 43 millimeter to a 55 millimeter. So the thread size on this Nifty 50 is 43 millimeters. So basically I would just screw this on here and screw on a 55 millimeter ND filter or black mist filter. And that way I don't have to have a 43 millimeter filter and also a 55 millimeter filter. I can just pick one, use a step-up ring, and go from there. And these step-up rings come in all sizes. There's also packs you can get on Amazon, but I personally just, if I have a thread size, like a 67 for an instance, for this 85 millimeter, I'll buy a 67 millimeter filter and then buy a step-up ring that goes from 43 to 67 or from 52 to 67. And so I can just use that one filter, because those filters are not cheap. If you're buying the quality ones, they're probably gonna run you anywhere between $40 and $100, depending on what kind you get. Next, I'll talk about this small rig charger. This one I got off of Amazon, and this is actually, it was super cheap. It was only $10. And you know, I just realized that I plugged this in here, but there's a USB already back there. I literally just now realized that. Okay, so I really didn't need this. Okay, so anyway, obviously the camera you're going to buy is going to come with a charger, but if you're like me and you went to Philadelphia and you lost your charger there, you're gonna have to get a new one. And also, if you want to see some street photography I did in Philadelphia, you can go ahead and hit this video up here and check that out. So this is a dual battery charger, so you can put both your batteries in here. If it comes with one, but if you want to buy another one like I did, you can plug both your batteries in here and plug them up, charge them at the same time. Like I said, it was only like 10 bucks. So this is something neat to have, and especially if you need to charge multiple batteries at once. The one that comes with the camera, you can only charge one battery, so you're having to charge one, take it out, and then charge the other one. It just takes a long time. And this charge is fairly quick. I think from 0% to full charge, it may take about an hour, hour and a half or so, which I don't know how standard that is. There might be faster chargers than that, but in my personal experience, this is what worked for me, and this is what is working for me. So this small rig battery charger, I thoroughly enjoy. Next, if you're shooting indoors a lot, or if you're shooting weddings and you're in an inside ceremony, or if you just need some extra help when in terms of lighting when you're shooting, you're gonna need an on-camera flash that can be also converted to an off-camera flash. And in my case, I got the Godox TT600. Godox is a really respected brand. A lot of people talk about the Godox V1, which is about $180. This one's gonna run you about $50, $60. It's fully manual, so there's no TTL mode. TTL standing for through the lens, and that's basically like auto mode for your flash. You have auto mode for your camera, then there's auto mode for your flash, TTL. But this is fully manual, so you could turn this on, and then you'll turn this dial, and this dial is going to be your power for how strong your flash is, 1/1 being the strongest, 1/64 being the weakest. And then you have your different functions here. If you see this zoom up top there, if you can see that, that zoom is going to be how wide or shallow your flash shoots. So if you want something to illuminate a large space, you want that zoom to be as low as possible. So like a 28mm or 16mm, because that's going to be equivalent to the field of view. If you want something to be more direct, then like I'm at a 50, you're going to want to do that. But on-camera flash, definitely recommend it, and definitely recommend picking up some sort of diffuser. So the one I have is just this one off Amazon. It's just this little plastic diffuser, because the one that comes with it is kind of ugly, not gonna lie. So this one just goes right on there, like so, if I can do it. It goes on, I promise you it does, but on-camera flash definitely works for you. And then you can buy adapters and buy C-stands and use this as off-camera flash as well, but you're gonna need a trigger for that, which I don't have yet. But on-camera flash, something that you wanna go with. So a big thing in photographers' world and photographers' bag, we're gonna need a way to back up our photos. And in that case, I'm going to recommend a solid state drive, probably from Sandisk, a 1 terabyte that's going to be a high read speed and also a high write speed. So the one I have is a Sandisk 1 terabyte, runs you about $90 and has about 1,000 megabit read and write speed. Because every time we come home from a shoot, we're going to want to back up our photos, because the SD card can corrupt and we don't want that to happen. People aren't paying money for you to say, hey, I'm sorry, I lost your photos. You can't have that happen. No matter how beginner you are, how expert you are, you can't have that happen. So you need a spot to back up your photos. And I recommend getting multiple of those. Maybe get one solid state drive and one hard drive. Have your solid state be your main, and then your hard drive be the backup to that hard drive. So if one hard drive corrupts, you still have another one, because we need to be sure as photographers that we're not losing photos, and we're doing everything we can to keep our photos so we're able to deliver them in a timely manner. So with that being said, transfer right over to the software process. I recommend Lightroom and Photoshop. It gets you, I think, $10, $20 a month, I believe. And that's going to be a way to edit all your photos. You can put them right in there, shoot the raw files, and then you edit those right in Lightroom. You can create presets, you can buy presets and upload them in there. And that's going to be the best way. Some people like Lightroom Classic, other people just like the regular Lightroom. That's going to be completely up to you. They do pretty much the same thing. There might be a little difference between the two of them, but at the end of the day, they both edit photos. You both get what you want. That's all you need. So I guess next we can talk about audio. So if you're a guy who is, or a girl, who is a videographer or a photographer who likes to do some video, or just want to shoot behind the scenes stuff, or you want to do talking head like me, and you don't want to hook up a microphone to your Rodecaster all the time, you can get a lavalier mic like the one I'm using here. This is a Hollyland Lark M1. So this comes with a receiver and also 2 microphones. So I have another one right in here. So if you want to do podcast interviews or, you know, walk out on the street and just have a dual whatever, you can hook this up, have 2 microphones on your subjects, and have a hands-free way of having pretty decent audio. Now, I haven't listened to this audio yet, so y'all gonna be the first ones to listen to it. Obviously, I'm gonna listen to it when I edit, but hopefully it sounds good. Y'all let me know in the comments if this audio sounds good. If not, I'm going to find the guy on Facebook Marketplace and ask him for a refund. Because yeah, that's another thing. I didn't really pay full price for a lot of this stuff either. Some of this stuff I got off Facebook Marketplace. Yeah. Anywho, and next, this is in my photography bag, but don't feel like if you're a beginner, you have to get these. But I do agree, or I do say that they do add a little bit of pizzazz to your photos. So this is my filter carrying case. So I have my ND filters in here and I also have my black mist filters in here. So an ND filter is just, some people like to say sunglasses for your camera. Some people don't like when that's being said, but it gives you an opportunity to do long exposure photos, or if you're shooting video in harsh light outside, you can put the ND filter on there and you can kind of control the light to make lighting easier on your subjects. So it's not as harsh and it just looks better overall when you go into post and try and edit your videos. So this filter right here that I'm about to pull out is a 1/8 black mist filter. So think about a black mist filter as a filter that is going to bloom your highlights. So if you look at a light bulb and then you'll see a bunch of softness around the light bulb, that's what a black mist filter does. The 1/8 is not going to be as bloomed out as a 1/4, but I have a 1/4 as well, and I think they look really cool. And I'm going to use them on my photo shoots this weekend. I have 4 photo shoots this weekend, and I'm going to use my CPL filter and also my black mist filter during those shoots to try and add a little bit of enhancement. If you don't know what a CPL filter is, a CPL filter is basically something that is going to be anti-glaring and it's going to bring out a lot of the colors in your video or in your photo or video too, if you're doing that. And it's just gonna make the whole scene look a lot better. So that about wraps it up. I think I went through pretty much everything in my camera bag that I think every beginner in 2024 who's starting photography, or somebody who's may have been doing photography, but they want to get more serious into building clientele. I think I went through all the stuff I have, all the basics and essentials that you need. And no, I didn't. Actually, I forgot one thing. Let's wind it back. SD cards. Please get correct SD cards. Please get, well, I'm not gonna tell you what brand because there's a bunch of brands that are respectable, but I use Sandisk SD cards. 64 gig, 128 gig. I recommend not getting a 512 or 1 terabyte SD card, because even though it holds a lot of pictures, a lot of video, if that thing corrupts, you lost so much information versus you shooting on a 64 gig or 128 gig. If you lose photos, then you don't lose as much information. And some SD cards that I just bought, they actually come with a 2-year free plan of photo recovery if your SD card corrupts or if you accidentally format it. So it usually comes on a serial number or on the box in a serial number, and you can plug that in to your software and then you'll be able to recover photos that have been damaged or deleted. So now, with that being said about SD cards, that wraps it up for this video. And I went through all the basics and all essentials I have for my lenses, filters, cameras, and everything like that. Now, of course, don't watch this video and think, oh, I need every exact thing that he has because I'm a beginner and he's a beginner too. Like, don't do that. You're going to need to find out what you want to photograph, and you're going to need to figure out the essentials of what you need for the type of field you're going into. Don't just go buy everything you see in this video just because I have it. That wouldn't make a lot of sense. Buy what you need, figure out your needs and your wants, and then go off that. This is just what I want, and I feel what I need for portrait photography and eventually later this year, wedding photography. So that's just what I'm doing. But with that being said, thank you for tuning in to another video. Sorry I've kept y'all waiting for this long. If you made it and you found value in this video up to this point, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'm going to be posting a lot more often, just with a full-time job and, you know, other stuff. I've been busy, man. Been busy, but not gonna make excuses. Gonna get right back into it. So appreciate y'all. Like, subscribe. Until next time, holla at y'all then.